She fell alone in the field, but when he found her, that baby's destiny began to change forever. Pregnant and rejected, she fainted by the fence. What no one expected was that an Apache would emerge from the woods and decide to protect her until the end. Watch until the end and see how this gesture changed the fate of a life. Subscribe now. The dirt road cut through the Bahian backlands like an old scar, cracked by drought. Raquel staggered, her bare feet already raw, her sweat-soaked dress clinging to her body, revealing without disguise the 5 months of pregnancy. Her father's words still echoed like whiplashes. "Get out of my house, disgrace. No daughter of mine carries a child without a father." 17 years of life reduced to a morning of expulsion. She didn't even have a chance to take her few belongings, just left, pushed out by the brute force of family shame. As she moved away down the road, she felt the world spin. Her legs failed, and before she could realize it, her body met the hard ground. Dust rising in a small cloud around her face. The water gourd she carried rolled away, spilling the last sip she had left. Damião heard the sound of something falling while gathering twigs in the nearby caatinga. A man of few words, he had lived alone on the edge of Quilombo Aguas Claras for almost a decade, since he had arrived wounded and without memory. The community had welcomed him, but he kept his distance, erecting a silent wall between himself and others. He approached cautiously, eyes narrowed, trying to identify the fallen figure. When he saw it was a young woman, he hesitated. White people's problems were not his problems. He turned to go on his way, but something made him look again. The young woman's belly revealed life within life. He sighed deeply, dropped the twigs, and squatted beside her. "Miss?" he called with a voice hoarse from little use. No response. He touched her pulse. It still beat, but as weak as a hummingbird's wing. He looked around, making sure no one was watching him. There was no choice. With a decisive movement, he lifted her in his arms, surprised by the lightness of her body, and headed toward the Quilombo. The sun was punishing when Damião crossed the entrance to the community. Children interrupted their games to observe. Women appeared in the doorways of the clay houses. "Call Dona Zeferina," he said to a boy who had approached. "Quickly." The boy dashed to a house covered by a flowery porch in the center of the community. It wasn't long before a black woman with cotton-white hair appeared, slow but firm steps, eyes that seemed to know all the secrets of the world. "Bring her inside, son," she ordered, without needing explanations. Dona Zeferina's house smelled of dried herbs hanging from the ceiling in small tied bundles. A rough wooden table occupied the center, and it was there that Damião deposited Raquel. The elder examined her with experienced fingers, touching her forehead, her pulse, her womb. "How long ago did you find her?" she asked, while moistening a cloth in a clay basin. "Less than an hour," he replied, retreating to the door. He wanted to leave. "Stay," said Dona Zeferina without taking her eyes off the young woman. "I want to know exactly where you found her when she wakes up." Damião leaned against the doorframe, resigned. Other women entered, bringing fresh water, an herbal infusion, clean cloths. They worked in silence, as if following an ancient dance, each knowing her role. "She's about 5 months pregnant," said Dona Zeferina, after a careful examination, "and has marks on her arms. Someone held her with force." The women exchanged glances. It wasn't the first time they had received someone fleeing from the cruelty of the outside world. While they cared for her, Raquel began to awaken, first a low moan, then her eyes opened, frightened, trying to recognize where she was. She tried to get up in a rush, but gentle hands restrained her. "Calm down, my child. You're safe now," murmured Dona Zeferina. Where am I?" asked Raquel, her voice trembling. "In Quilombo Aguas Claras. Damião found you unconscious on the road." Raquel looked around, her eyes stopping on the tall, thin man leaning against the door. She felt afraid. "I won't go back home," she said, instinctively bringing her hands to her belly. "You can't make me." Dona Zeferina placed her wrinkled hand over hers. "No one here is going to force you to do anything, girl. First you rest, then we'll talk." When she managed to sit up, Raquel accepted a glass of water and then the bitter infusion they offered her. Damião observed, intrigued by his own attitude. Why hadn't he simply gone on his way? What did this white girl have to do with him? The answer came when Raquel finally raised her face and their gazes met. There was something familiar in that look, something he recognized, the same desperation he had seen in his own reflection years ago. Damião left the house without saying a word. Behind him, he heard Dona Zeferina explain to the young woman, "He doesn't talk much, but it was he who saved your life today." That night, as the community retired and the crickets took over the evening symphony, the Council of Elders met at Dona Zeferina's house. Raquel slept in the next room, exhausted. "The girl has nowhere to go," explained the midwife. "Her father threw her out when he discovered the pregnancy." Seu Benedito, the oldest of the council, shook his head. "We know what happens to girls like her in the cities. It's not the first case we've seen." "But she's not quilombola," pondered Dona Josefa. "We have our own problems with the authorities. They're trying to take our lands again." A heavy silence fell over the room. The process of recognizing quilombola lands had dragged on for years, and any friction with local authorities could harm the community. "Let the girl stay until the baby is born," said Damião, surprising everyone with his sudden participation. "Then she decides what to do." The elders exchanged surprised looks. It was rare for Damião to participate in meetings, even rarer for him to give an opinion. "It's decided then," concluded Dona Zeferina with a slight smile. "The girl stays, and may Zangor protect us from what lies ahead." Outside, the wind shook the branches of the old baobab that guarded the center of the community, a silent witness to so many stories of resistance. In its strong and ancient trunk, scars told centuries of struggle and survival. And now a new story began to unfold under its protective shade, as night advanced and the stars drew paths in the dark sky of the backlands. 3 weeks had passed since Raquel arrived at the Quilombo. The sun was rising lazily when she awoke in the small house that had been given to her, the first rays penetrating through the cracks of the wooden window. She caressed her growing belly, feeling a slight movement under her fingers. "Good morning to you too," she whispered. She got up slowly, adjusting the dress borrowed from one of the residents. It was simple but clean and comfortable, quite different from the tight clothes her father had forced her to wear, so as not to look like a tramp. She thought of him for a moment. Arnaldo Vasconcelos, a respected farmer in Bom Jesus da Lapa, a man of harsh words and harsher hands. She pushed the thought away like shooing an unwanted fly. At the door of the house, she found a bundle of cassava and some fruit. It was like this every morning. Someone would leave food without her having to ask. She never knew exactly who, but suspected it was Dona Zeferina's doing. The old midwife cared for her as if she were her own daughter, teaching her the secrets of herbs, telling stories of quilombola resistance, preparing her for the birth to come. She headed to the stream where women were already washing clothes, singing softly. Some waved, others just smiled. Few spoke directly to her, but there was no hostility. Just the natural reserve of those who had lived generations of distrust of outsiders. "Are you going to stand there watching, or are you going to help?" Dona Zeferina's voice surprised her. The elder was squatting, rubbing a sheet against a smooth stone. "Come, girl. Work is medicine for a thoughtful soul." Raquel approached, lifting the hem of her dress to avoid getting it wet. She squatted carefully beside the old woman. "I don't know if I can, because of the baby," she hesitated. Dona Zeferina let out a short laugh. "A pregnant woman is not a sick woman. My grandmother gave birth in the field and went back to picking cotton the same day. Your child needs a strong mother." She taught her how to twist the cloth without damaging it, how to use the stone to remove difficult stains. The other women, seeing the elder's example, began to include Raquel in the conversation, asking about her life before, about her knowledge of plants, about what she expected for her child. "Will it be a boy or a girl?" asked Janaína, a young mother of 3 children. "Dona Zeferina says it's a girl, but I don't know," replied Raquel. "Zeferina never makes a mistake," affirmed another woman. "She has blessed hands for bringing children into the world." From a distance, Damião observed the group while repairing the thatched roof of one of the houses. Since he had brought the girl, he had kept his distance, but his eyes followed her when he thought no one was watching. He didn't understand his own interest. Perhaps it was just the instinct to protect someone he himself had saved. Or perhaps it was something more, something he didn't want to admit. Seu Benedito climbed the improvised ladder, bringing more straw. "You're looking too much, son," commented the old man with a mischievous smile. Damião looked away, embarrassed. "Just checking if she's adapting." I know. Is that why you circle her house every night like a jaguar watching its territory?" Damião didn't respond. He continued working in silence, muscles tense under his worn shirt. The old man sighed. "She's not like the others who appeared around here, Damião. This one has a powerful family." "How do you know?" "News travels. Her father is Arnaldo Vasconcelos. He owns half the lands in the municipality, and the other half he wants to buy, including ours." A chill ran down Damião's spine. He knew that name well. It was Vasconcelos who led the attempted expulsion of the Quilombo 5 years ago, when they tried to build a dam that would flood the entire region. The community resisted, but the price was high. Threats, burned houses, a child killed during a night attack. The wound was still open. "And the father of the child?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "They say it's the mayor's son, Eduardo Mendonça." An educated young man returned from the capital with a diploma and his nose in the air. He's engaged to a politician's daughter. Damião closed his eyes for a moment, absorbing the information. The situation was worse than he had imagined. It wasn't just an abandoned pregnant girl. It was a powder keg about to explode over the community. In the afternoon, while Raquel was helping in the community garden, she felt a presence behind her. She turned and found Damião holding a small bundle. "For you," he said, extending the package without looking her in the eyes. She accepted, curious. Inside was a pair of leather sandals, rustic but well made. "I noticed yours are worn out," he explained, still not meeting her gaze. "Thank you," she replied, touched by the gesture. "Did you make them yourself?" He nodded. He was about to walk away when she touched his arm. "Why did you help me that day?" The question caught him by surprise. He remained silent for so long that she thought he wouldn't answer. "I was also expelled," he finally said, his voice low like a secret. "From where?" "From home, from the city, from the life I knew." That was all he said before walking away, leaving her with more questions than answers. That night, sitting at the door of her house, Raquel was observing the stars when Donna Zeferina joined her. "He wasn't always like this," commented the elder, following her gaze to the solitary figure of Damião, who was lighting a fire near his cabin. "Like what?" "Before he lost everything. He was a teacher in the city. He taught history, talked about rights, organized rural workers. One night, thugs invaded the school where he gave night classes. They beat him until they almost killed him, destroyed everything. When we found him, he was wandering aimlessly, almost dead." Raquel felt a lump in her throat. "Who did this?" "The same ones who want our lands. The same ones who say people like us don't deserve respect." Donna Zeferina stared at her intensely. "The same ones who threw you out of your home." A heavy silence fell between them. "Does your father know you're here?" asked the elder. Raquel shook her head. "I don't think so. I left without a clear direction. I walked for hours before fainting." "And the father of the child?" Raquel hugged her own belly, as if to protect the baby from the words that would come. "Eduardo Mendonça, the mayor's son. He said he loved me, that we would run away together. Then he said the child wasn't his, that I was a slut." The last word came out choked by contained tears. Donna Zeferina placed her wrinkled hand over hers. "A man who doesn't honor his seed is not a man, he's the wind. Passes and goes away, leaving nothing but dust." The conversation was interrupted by shouts coming from the entrance of the Quilombo. Everyone stood up, alarmed. One of the young men who was keeping watch ran to the center of the community, breathless. "People are coming." "Many people." Seu Benedito took the lead. "How many?" "About 10 men. There are cars, horses, they're armed." A murmur of fear ran through the community. Damião approached quickly. "Take the women and children to the hideout by the stream," he ordered one of the young men. Then he turned to Raquel, who was pale. "You go too." "No," intervened Donna Zeferina. "Take the children. We stay. This is our land. And she pointed to Raquel, is now one of us." The young woman felt something expand in her chest, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. Belonging. Donna Zeferina positioned herself in the center, her fragile body radiating an ancestral strength. "Prepare yourselves. They have come to take what they think belongs to them, but here neither land nor people have owners besides themselves." The car headlights were already illuminating the entrance to the Quilombo, and the sound of horse hooves announced the arrival of unwanted visitors. The night, which before was peaceful, now promised a storm. The cars stopped in a semicircle. High beams pointed at the center of the Quilombo like spotlights ready for a somber spectacle. The first man to get out was tall, broad-shouldered, with well-trimmed grey hair. He wore a dress shirt, even in the heat of the backlands. Impeccable boots that seemed never to have stepped in mud. Fernando Vasconcelos, the upright posture of someone who never needed to bow. Behind him, younger, with an angular face and restless gaze, Eduardo Mendonça adjusted the wristwatch that shone under the artificial light. The others were henchmen, men of service, some with the suspicious bulge of weapons under their shirts. The Quilombolas formed an instinctive line of defense. In front, Seu Benedito, Dona Zeferina, and the other elders. Just behind, the adult men, including Damião, who kept his eyes fixed on Vasconcelos, hands closed in fists. The women formed the third line, many holding work tools that could serve as weapons. Raquel was among them, partially hidden, her heart beating so hard she feared everyone could hear it. "Good evening." Vasconcelos's voice cut through the silence like a razor. "We didn't want to disturb so late, but the matter is urgent." Seu Benedito stepped forward. "We are on our land. Those who arrive armed after sunset do not come in peace." "You're mistaken, old man. I came to get what is mine." Vasconcelos's gaze swept the crowd until he found what he was looking for. "Raquel, I know you're there. Come out now." She felt her blood freeze in her veins. Instinctively, she stepped back, but Dona Zeferina stopped her with a gesture. "Show your face, girl," she whispered. "Not with your head down, but like someone who knows her worth." With a lump in her throat, Raquel moved forward until she stood beside Dona Zeferina. She raised her chin, though her legs were trembling. "I have nothing of yours, father," she said, her voice firmer than she expected. "You yourself threw me out. And now I'm here to fix that," he replied, modulating his voice to sound reasonable. "Your mother is sick with worry. Come, let's go home." Eduardo stepped forward, rehearsing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Raquel, dear, there was a misunderstanding. I'm here to take responsibility." She let out a bitter laugh. "Now, after saying I was a slut? After denying your own child?" Eduardo cast a nervous glance at Vasconcelos, who maintained an impassive expression. "I was confused, scared. But now..." Damião advanced, placing himself between Raquel and the visitors. "She's not going anywhere." Vasconcelos stared at him, eyes narrowing in recognition. "You, the teacher. I thought you'd learned your lesson last time." The Quilombolas murmured among themselves. So it was true. Vasconcelos was behind the attack on Damião. He didn't back down. "We're not in your school anymore, or on your farm. Here you don't give orders." The farmer smiled, but the gesture was as cold as a snake coiled to strike. "Look at that, the defender of the oppressed. How touching." He turned to the community. "Don't you understand? You're risking everything for a white girl who isn't even of your people. Why get involved in a family quarrel?" Dona Zeferina stepped forward, leaning on her carved staff. Despite her age, her voice echoed strongly. "Here, whoever needs shelter finds it. Whoever needs protection receives it. It has been so since our ancestors fled from the whips and built this place with blood and hope." Vasconcelos ignored her, now addressing Eduardo. "Tell them what will happen if they don't hand over my daughter." The young man cleared his throat, adjusting his posture. "As you know, there is a process about the ownership of these lands. My father, the mayor, received a call from the judge yesterday. The decision is about to come out, and it doesn't seem favorable to you." A worried murmur ran through the community. They had been fighting for decades for the legal recognition of the Quilombo. "But," continued Eduardo, "we can influence that decision. My father has friends in Brasilia. A word from him can make all the difference." The blackmail was clear. "Hand over Raquel or lose the lands." So Benedito shook his head. "Always the same threats, always the same game." "It's not a game," cut in Vasconcelos. "It's reality. You have 3 days to hand over my daughter. After that, I won't be responsible for the consequences." He turned to Raquel. 3 days, daughter. Think about the future of this child. What kind of life will it have here in the middle of nowhere? Eduardo is willing to give his name to the baby, to support you both. Or would you prefer your child to be born without a father, without a name, without a future? The words hit Raquel like stones. It was her biggest insecurity. What future could she give the child? Eduardo approached, extending his hand as if offering salvation. "Come with me now, Raquel. My parents have already prepared a room for you in our house. We'll have the wedding before the birth. No one will need to know. No, her voice came out as a scream. I won't go back to be anyone's property, not my father's, not yours. Vasconcelos hardened his expression. You have no choice. You're a minor. You're under my legal responsibility. She does have a choice, intervened Damião. We all do. The farmer looked at him with contempt. You're a walking dead man, teacher. I only didn't finish the job because I thought you had learned. I see I was wrong. He gestured to his men. Let's go. They had their chance. Before getting into the car, he pointed to the gathered community. 3 days. After that, there will be no Quilombo left to tell the story. When the vehicles moved away, leaving only dust and silence, the tension exploded into heated discussions. We can't risk everything because of her, shouted one of the men. The lands are our legacy, our history. And abandoning an innocent is not part of that legacy, retorted Donna Zeferina. Our ancestors didn't escape from slavery to become executioners. The community was divided. Some defended protecting Raquel at any cost. Others argued that the survival of the Quilombo should come first. Raquel heard everything in silence, the weight of guilt growing on her shoulders. Finally, unable to bear it anymore, she walked away toward the stream. Damião followed her, maintaining a respectful distance. He found her sitting on a rock observing the water that ran lazily under the moonlight. I'll leave tomorrow, she said when she felt him approach. I can't be responsible for the destruction of all this. He sat beside her, eyes fixed on the current. If you go back, what will happen? She sighed. My father will lock me in the house until the baby is born. Then, her voice faltered, then they'll take my child from me. I've already heard my father arranging it with Eduardo. They'll say it died in childbirth, but actually they'll give it up for adoption in another city. Tears were flowing freely now, and I'll be forced to marry some old farmer who doesn't care about my past, as long as I serve to bear more children and take care of his house. Damião closed his eyes, absorbing the horror of that future. Then it's not an option. And what is? Let them destroy the Quilombo. These people welcomed me, gave me a new life. How can I repay them by bringing disgrace? They remained silent for long minutes, only the sound of the water filling the space between them. There is another way, Damião finally said. What? To fight. Not just hide, but confront. He turned to face her. Vasconcelos and Eduardo are not untouchable. What they did to you, what they did to me, what they tried to do to the Quilombo, these are all crimes. And since when does the law protect people like us against people like them? She asked, bitter. It doesn't always protect, but sometimes when we make enough noise, when we don't keep quiet, when we tell our stories, sometimes the world listens. Back at the Quilombo, the assembly continued heatedly. When Raquel and Damião approached, the voices fell silent. All eyes turned to them. You don't need to decide for me, she said. I'll leave tomorrow. Donna Zeferina stood up, leaning on her staff. Before you make any decision, I want you to hear a story. The story of this Quilombo. The elder positioned herself in the center of the circle, near the fire that cast dancing shadows on the attentive faces. When our matriarch, Teresa de Benguela, fled from the farm carrying her child still in her womb, she was pursued for 3 days and 3 nights. Wounded, hungry, she found shelter with a group of indigenous people. She could have continued alone, could have given up her location to save her own skin, but she stayed and fought alongside those who welcomed her. She paused, her eyes traveling over the faces around her. Our Quilombo was born from that union, from people who chose solidarity above safety, who understood that freedom without dignity is not freedom. The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. Seu Benedito finally spoke, his voice hoarse with emotion. We will not hand over the girl, but we also cannot just wait for them to come destroy us. We need a plan. Damião stepped forward. I have an idea, but it will require courage from all of us, especially from Raquel. As he explained, the expression of the people changed from fear to determination. It wouldn't be easy, there would be risks. But as Donna Zeferina said at the end of the meeting, looking at the stars, when danger comes from all sides, the only safe path is forward. That night, no one slept in Quilombo Aguas Claras. There was much to prepare, many details to arrange. The countdown had begun. 3 days to change not just the fate of a young mother, but the future of an entire community. And as the hours advanced, relentless like the sun that would soon rise on the horizon, Raquel felt the baby move in her womb. as if also preparing for the battle to come. The third day dawned with a heavy sky. Low clouds forecasting a storm, something rare for that time of year in the backlands. Since early morning, messengers had left the Quilombo in various directions, some to neighboring Quilombos, others to allied indigenous villages, some to the city. The plan required many hands, many voices, many hearts beating to the same rhythm. In the center of the Quilombo, under the old baobab, Donna Zeferina prepared Raquel. Her 6-month belly was now painted with ancient symbols made from anato and jenipap. These are symbols of protection, explained the elder, as her agile fingers drew spirals and crosses on the stretched skin. They call the ancestors to guard the child's path. Raquel closed her eyes, feeling the cool touch of the natural paint. In the last 3 days, she had learned more about resistance and dignity than in all her previous life. "I'm afraid," she confessed in a low voice. "It's normal to be afraid," replied Donna Zeferina. "Even the strongest trees tremble during the storm, but their roots remain firm." Damião approached, bringing a small package. Since the night of the threat, he had become a constant presence beside Raquel, explaining every detail of the plan, listening to her doubts, calming her fears. There was now a silent intimacy between them, built not of words or romantic gestures, but of mutual trust and shared purpose. "Everything is ready," he said. "The journalists have arrived. The human rights lawyer, too. They're waiting in the shed." Raquel nodded, trying to control the tremor in her hands. Everything depended on her courage in the next few hours. Damião seemed to notice her hesitation. "We can still find another way. You don't have to do this." She took a deep breath, touching the symbols on her belly. "Yes, I do. Not just for me or my child, but for everyone here. And for all who came before me." Donna Zeferina smiled, proud. "Go prepare then. When the sun is in the center of the sky, we'll begin." The community shed, normally used for festivals and meetings, had been transformed. A large table occupied the center, covered with documents, photos, recorders. Around it, people Raquel never imagined seeing there. 2 journalists from the capital, a human rights lawyer, representatives of social movements, a federal prosecutor. All listened attentively to Seu Benedito, who showed ancient maps and yellowed documents that proved the Quilombo's centuries-old presence on those lands. "What you will witness today," explained the elder, "is not just the story of a threatened young mother. It's a portrait of how traditional communities continue to be treated in this country." When Raquel entered, accompanied by Damião and Donna Zeferina, all heads turned. Her belly painted with traditional symbols, the simple white dress, the determined look. She no longer seemed the frightened girl who had arrived unconscious weeks ago. The lawyer, Dr. Luisa Nascimento, approached. "Are you ready to record your testimony? It will be recorded and attached to the case." Raquel nodded. The next 2 hours were intense. She told everything. How Eduardo, the mayor's son, had seduced her with promises of love. How upon discovering the pregnancy, he had accused her of betrayal. How her own father had expelled her from home, threatening her if she stained the family name. How she had heard plans to take her child away after birth. The journalists made frantic notes. The prosecutor recorded every word. The lawyer occasionally asked for specific details, names, dates, witnesses. When she finished, Damião took her place. His story complemented hers, showing a pattern of abuse of power. How he had been attacked by Vasconcelos's henchmen when organizing rural workers. How local authorities ignored the complaint. How attempts to expel the Quilombo intensified when they discovered mineral deposits nearby. Other Quilombolas added their own accounts. A panel of systematic violence and impunity took shape before the visitors' eyes. "This is much more serious than we imagined," said the prosecutor, adjusting his glasses. "We have enough elements to open inquiries on several fronts. And most importantly," added the lawyer, "enough to prevent any immediate action against you or against Raquel." One of the journalists closed his notebook. "The story runs in tomorrow's edition. With this evidence, it will be impossible for them to act in the shadows, as they're accustomed to." Seu Benedito exchanged glances with Donna Zeferina. It was what they had hoped to hear, but they knew that public exposure was only part of the battle. Legal protection would need to be immediate. "When can we have a protective order for the girl?" asked the elder. "And the suspension of the repossession process?" "I'm sending the requests right now," replied the lawyer, typing on her laptop. "With luck, we'll have preliminary decisions today." The buzz was interrupted by a shout from outside. They're here, they're at the entrance to the Quilombo. Everyone looked at each other. It was too early. Vasconcelos's visit was scheduled only for late afternoon. The plan had to be accelerated. "Positions," ordered Damião. "Everyone knows what to do." Quickly, the visitors from the city were led to a discreet location from where they could witness everything without being immediately seen. The community organized as they had rehearsed. The elders in front, men and women in a circle protecting the center where Raquel would remain. She took a deep breath, feeling her heart race. Damião held her hand for a brief moment. "Remember, you are not alone." The convoy of vehicles was larger this time. Besides Vasconcelos's and Mayor Mendonça's cars, there were police cars and even a tractor, a clear sign they weren't just coming to talk. When they parked, forming a threatening semicircle, the first to get out was the local sheriff, followed by Vasconcelos, the mayor, and Eduardo. Their faces showed surprise at finding the entire community gathered, organized, without signs of fear. "We've come to enforce a judicial order," announced the sheriff, raising a paper. "This Quilombo is on private land, according to Judge Silva's decision." Seu Benedito stepped forward. "What a coincidence, Sheriff. We received a counter-order from the federal court just minutes ago, suspending any action until the conclusion of the Quilombo territory recognition process." The sheriff frowned, disconcerted. He didn't expect legal resistance. Vasconcelos stepped forward, impatient. "Enough talk. I came to get my daughter, and I won't leave here without her." His gaze scanned the crowd until he found Raquel, who now positioned herself beside Donna Zeferina, her painted belly exposed like a banner. "Look at the state of her," he vociferated, "painted like a savage." Eduardo seemed nervous, constantly looking at his father, who maintained an impassive, calculating expression. "Raquel," called Vasconcelos, moderating his voice, "it's your last chance. Come willingly or I'll take you by force. I don't care about the scandal." It was Damião who responded, positioning himself beside her. "Any attempt to take Raquel against her will be registered as kidnapping. We have witnesses." The farmer laughed, incredulous. "Witnesses? Who would give credit to a bunch of—" His voice died when, one by one, the visitors from the city emerged from their hiding places. The journalists with their cameras, the lawyer with her documents, the federal prosecutor with his badge. "What farce is this?" asked Mayor Mendonça, suddenly pale. "Justice," responded Donna Zeferina, "something rare in these parts, but which still exists." The prosecutor stepped forward, formally introducing himself. "We are here to ensure that no rights are violated. Miss Raquel Vasconcelos has formalized serious allegations against her father and against Eduardo Mendonça, including threats, domestic violence, and a plan to remove the baby after birth." "This is absurd," protested Eduardo. "She's making up these stories." "We have recordings," intervened the lawyer, "and witnesses. Besides, Miss Raquel turned 18 yesterday. Legally, she's an adult and can decide where and with whom to live." The revelation hit Vasconcelos like a physical blow. He didn't know, or had conveniently forgotten, that his daughter would have a birthday. His entire plan was based on the legal power he had over a minor. The sheriff, realizing that the situation had changed dramatically, began to back off. "I think we need to reassess the procedures here." Vasconcelos would not accept defeat so easily. "You'll regret this," he said to Raquel, his voice trembling with anger. "When that bastard is born and you have no way to support it, don't come begging for help." It was then that something unexpected happened. Raquel felt a sharp pain, followed by warm liquid running down her legs. Donna Zeferina immediately supported her. "Her water broke," she announced. "The baby is coming." A murmur of astonishment ran through the crowd. It was too early. There were still 3 months until the term of the pregnancy. "We need to take her to the hospital," said one of the journalists. "There's no time," replied Donna Zeferina. "This baby wants to be born here, now." The confusion that followed was intense. While the Quilombolas led Raquel to Donna Zeferina's house, the visitors from the city divided between following the birth and continuing the confrontation with Vasconcelos and his allies. The sheriff, seeing that the situation was completely out of control, ordered his men to withdraw. "I won't participate in a circus that could end with a death," he declared. Mayor Mendonça, concerned about the repercussions, also decided to retreat. "Let's go, Eduardo. We'll resolve this through legal channels." Only Vasconcelos remained, watching with impotence as his plan crumbled. Inside Donna Zeferina's house, Raquel moaned with increasingly strong contractions. The midwife and other experienced women prepared hot water, clean towels, medicinal herbs. "It's too early," cried Raquel, terrified. "My baby won't survive." Donna Zeferina held her face between her hands. "Look at me. Your daughter is strong like you. She will fight, and we will fight with her." Damian waited outside, pacing back and forth, consumed by worry. Raquel's cries of pain tortured him. He wanted to be in there, holding her hand, telling her everything would be all right. So Benedito approached, offering him a cup of water. "It's like this. Life comes with pain, but also with joy afterward." The hours dragged on. The sun was beginning to set when the thin, sharp cry of a newborn cut through the air. Inside the house, Donna Zeferina raised in her arms a tiny girl, but with surprisingly strong lungs. "She arrived on a full night," announced the midwife, repeating the ancestral words as she placed the baby on Raquel's chest, "and brings the strength of the storm within her." Damian was called inside. Seeing mother and daughter together, something broke within him, a wall of solitude he had kept erected for years. He knelt beside Raquel, touching with reverence the red face of the newborn. "She's perfect," he whispered, "like you." Raquel smiled through tears. "I'll call her Teresa, like the matriarch of the Quilombo." Donna Zeferina nodded, approving. A good name for one born of resistance. Outside, the news of the birth spread. The community celebrated. The visitors from the city documented the historic moment, and in the distance, Vasconcelos observed everything from inside his car, the last still parked at the entrance to the Quilombo. For a brief moment, something resembling remorse crossed his face upon hearing he had a granddaughter, but soon he started the vehicle and disappeared down the dusty road. 3 months later, Quilombo Aguas Claras was undergoing a transformation. The allegations made that day resulted in investigations that revealed a land-grabbing scheme involving local politicians, including Mayor Mendonça, who resigned. Vasconcelos lost influence and part of his lands when forged documents came to light. Little Teresa, despite being premature, was growing strong under the care of Raquel and the entire community. Damian had again taken up his role as a teacher, but now within the Quilombo, teaching the children and also adults who wanted to learn to read and write. On a September afternoon, as the sun began to tilt westward, Raquel sat under the old baobab, nursing Teresa. Damian approached, bringing a small package. "For both of you," he said, handing over the package with still unsurpassed shyness. Inside were 2 identical necklaces made of colorful seeds and small shells. "It's a protection amulet. Donna Zeferina taught me how to make it." Raquel smiled, touched by the gesture. "Will you put it on me?" He knelt behind her, his fingers lightly brushing her neck as he fastened the necklace. When he finished, he didn't move away. He remained there, close, breathing in the scent of her hair. "I've been wanting to say something for a long time," he murmured, "but I never find the right words." She turned to face him, her eyes bright. "Sometimes we don't need words." The moment was interrupted by Donna Zeferina, who approached leaning on her staff. "Sorry to interrupt the lovebirds, but we have a visitor." At the entrance to the Quilombo, an unfamiliar car had parked. A man got out, grey-haired, thinner and less imposing than the last time they had seen him. Arnaldo Vasconcelos carried a small package in his hands. "I've come to see my granddaughter," he said simply when Seu Benedito approached him. "If you'll allow me." The news spread and soon Raquel appeared, with Teresa in her arms and Damian at her side. Vasconcelos swallowed hard when he saw his daughter and granddaughter. "She looks like you when you were a baby," he commented, his voice choked. A tense silence settled between them. It was Donna Zeferina who broke it. "Here, those who come in peace are welcome, even those who were once enemies." The old farmer nodded, grateful. "I didn't come to ask forgiveness. I came to meet my granddaughter. And to bring this." He extended the package to Raquel. Inside was a deed, the farm neighboring the Quilombo, smaller than his other properties, but fertile and with abundant water. "It's in your name and in hers when she's older." Raquel looked at the document, then at her father, incredulous. "Why?" He looked away, visibly uncomfortable with the vulnerability of the moment. "Your mother, before she left," he hesitated. "She made me promise I would fix things. In my own way, I'm trying." The mother's departure, not death, never directly mentioned, but understood by all. Raquel felt tears spring up. With a gesture that surprised everyone, including herself, she extended Teresa to her grandfather. "Do you want to hold her?" Trembling, he accepted the small bundle in his strong farmer's arms. The girl opened her eyes, dark and intense like her mother's, and stared at him with curiosity. Something broke in the hard expression of the old farmer. "Hello, little one," he whispered. That scene, under the protective shade of the centuries-old baobab, was the beginning of a new story, not of immediate reconciliation or easy forgiveness, but of small steps toward an understanding that, like the tree, would need time to create deep roots. Months later, when the Quilombo finally received the definitive title to its lands, the celebration gathered not just the community, but people from all over the region. Among drums, dances, and traditional foods, Raquel watched her daughter, now almost a year old, taking her first uncertain steps, supported by Damien's firm hands. "She has your courage," he said, proud. Raquel smiled. "And your stubbornness." Donna Zeferina joined them, her eyes shining with satisfaction as she observed the fruit of that unlikely union. "You know what the ancients say, that when a child is born during a battle, she brings with her the gift of building bridges where before there were only walls." And so it was. Little Teresa grew as a living symbol of that transformation, not just of her mother's life or the history of the Quilombo, but of an entire region that slowly was learning that true strength lies not in dominating, but in welcoming, not in possessing, but in sharing. And on full moon nights, when the community gathered to tell stories to the youngest, there was always someone who remembered, "It's not a legend. It's our living history," of how a young mother and an unborn child taught us that, in this land, the womb is a seed and not a shame. If this narrative of strength, resistance, and transformation touched your heart, don't let it end here. Share your thoughts in the comments, leave your like so more people can know stories like this, and subscribe to the channel to follow other journeys that, like the centuries-old baobab, create deep roots in our soul and flourish in times of adversity.